Out action across the Atlantic. It's a clear road to 10 Downing Street now for Theresa May. This after the only other contender for the leadership role of the Conservative Party in the UK, Andrea Leadstom, quit the race. Theresa May is all set to take charge as the Prime Minister of Britain later this week. This after David Cameron announced that he will step down this Wednesday. Let's go across to Sanjay Suri now in London for more.
Well, Theresa May is as good as Prime Minister already after Andrea Leadstom quit the Conservative race for party leadership and the position of Prime Minister. The question now is when and not if. If was never a big question with Theresa May, given the overwhelming support she had within the party. But the race was to be put to the formal test on September the 9th at the time of the Conservative Party annual conference. The party committee that takes a call on this may now decide to give Theresa May the job earlier than that in a situation where there is no contest at all. It's very unlikely that another leader from the Leave camp will now contest against Theresa May, seeing that Andrea Leadstom had very little support within the party compared to Theresa May. What is clear and starkly clear is that just about every leader who wanted to leave the European Union has now quit the race when it has come time for Britain to leave the European Union. Boris Johnson, for a start, he quit. Michael Gove never had a chance. He as good as quit. Nigel Farage quit leadership of the UK Independence Party, which led the whole campaign for the referendum. The only one left standing was Andrea Leadstom within the Conservative Party, and now she is gone. So Britain will be led into a future by leaders who did not want the direction in which they will now have to lead the country.
Sanjay Suri, appreciate you joining us here and filling us in with all the latest details. And to take that conversation forward, joining us now is Richard Hell, the CEO of the UK-India Business Council. Richard, always a pleasure to have you on CNBC TV 18. Well, it's a job that nobody wants, and Theresa May is going to take over from David Cameron. What does this mean now for the UK?
Shireen, good evening. I think it's relatively positive for the UK on a number of grounds. The first is that Theresa May is an extremely experienced and tough negotiator. And, you know, let's not forget that she has occupied one of the major positions of state in the UK for longer than the Home Office, for longer than any other politician has done for maybe 100 years, plus the fact that the Home Office is known to be the kind of graveyard of political ambition. So the fact that she's made such a success of it, I think stands testament to her abilities. I also believe that the fact that this rather surprising withdrawal from the leadership campaign has come through today, I think that that is positive. If you look at the reactions in the markets, you earlier mentioned about the FTSE 100, but actually if you look at the FTSE 250, which is the broader-based, more domestic market, that's gone up by over 3.5% since the announcement was made. So generally there is a feeling of consistency and moving forward. And yes, okay, she campaigned on the Remain side, but I think that she was probably a Eurosceptic who wanted to argue for reform inside rather than being a dyed-in-the-wool Europhile. So I think there are a lot of positives that you can take out. The key thing that she has to deal with now is how does she unify the party, not just within Parliament, but also the membership who were not given the opportunity that they expected to vote on these two candidates. And she's got to construct a cabinet around that, which takes into account the different Leave campaigners, Brexiters, as well as the Remainers, who will give that consistency to take these very difficult negotiations forward.
Right. Richard, now it's clear that it's going to be Theresa May in 10 Downing. I think what is uncertain is when Theresa May will decide to trigger Article 50. She's gone on record to say that she will trigger Article 50 only when she secures the best deals as far as the UK is concerned. What would you read that to mean? Do you think perhaps by the end of 2016, by the end of this calendar year?
Well, as you say, Shireen, I think Article 50 is really the thing that makes the whole process run, and pulling the trigger is at the gift of the UK government, if you like. and therefore they have to be absolutely certain that all the ducks are aligned before they pull that trigger, because what happens after that is that actually the initiative is taken away from the UK government, and they have to then negotiate with the other 27 states that are in Europe. So it is a very, very important decision that has to be taken. I have to say there are other factors that come into play because, as you probably are aware, there are legal questions being raised as to whether the government themselves can actually pull the trigger or whether they have to go to Parliament. These things have to be resolved in the process. But I would imagine that we're not going to see an immediate triggering, which was what Andrea Leadstom was saying that she would do. We're going to see something that is more cautious, more considered, in order to achieve the best possible outcome.
Richard, as far as investors go, and the markets, of course, are now reacting positively. They have wiped out the losses that we saw after the referendum vote. But as far as investors who are based in the UK, do you still sense nervousness on how this is all going to pan out? We were listening to Satya Nadella there talk about life post the Brexit. What does this now mean for Indian companies and other companies that have operations in the UK?
I think there is, you're absolutely right. I think that there is a considerable degree of uncertainty. I mean, in practical terms, we're only some 2 weeks after the vote, which took a lot of people by surprise. I mean, what we saw into the actual referendum was a slowdown in investment, both from UK as well as from foreign companies. And post the Brexit vote, people that we have spoken to are really trying to take stock and looking at things from a holistic point of view. And it very much depends where you are, what space you occupy within the economy, what your business does, as to how you see the opportunities. Clearly, if you're exposed in the consumer market, consumer spending, there is an anticipation that may be slightly cooling. If you're looking at other areas, say for instance in exporting, then we're seeing companies coming to us looking at opportunities in India, particularly as because it gives you exposure to your economy, but B, actually it gives you a nice hedge to what may be a slowdown within Europe and the UK. So there are lots of different strategies that are being played out. As far as Indian companies are concerned within the UK, very interesting survey that was done by FICCI recently, which indicates that of the 700 or so Indian companies that are in the UK, 48% of those companies are in the UK for UK-specific reasons, and only 14% are in the UK specifically because of entry and access to Europe. So again, you're going to have to look at the dynamic and how that plays out. And one of the other things I would stress is that the statements that came out of our Chancellor and various other senior members of government since Brexit would indicate that the UK government is looking to create a very business-friendly environment. We've seen capital buffers being put in place or relaxed by the Bank of England, which in theory allows banks to lend more into the corporate sector. We've had statements from the Chancellor coming out about how he's going to bring down corporation tax to 15%, which would be very, very low in international as well as European standards. So you can see how the positioning is being put in place to create a very much more business-friendly environment.
Richard, my final question to you, Tata Steel, one of the largest investors from India in the UK, plans haven't gone according to what they would have liked. They've decided to now look at a joint venture with ThyssenKrupp and put their asset sale plans, at least, or some part of its asset sale plans in the UK on hold. Is this being seen as a setback for Indian investments in the UK?
No, I don't think that is the case. I mean, everyone is very well aware of what has happened to commodity prices and the volatility in commodity prices. And I think that there is being a large amount of effort being put in place by both the UK government and by Tata to try and find a solution We know that the UK government is looking at the pension fund that underpins the Tata Steel efforts in Port Talbot. We know that the UK government itself is looking at how different ways that they can help. Obviously, commodity prices have spiked up as far as steel, so that's put a slightly different dynamic on it. So I think that people are looking at this from a very fluid and dynamic point of view. And I'm sure that they will treat the negotiations that they're having with ThyssenKrupp with utter seriousness. As far as Indian investment goes in general in in the UK, I think that India is seen as being an extremely important partner, and one that we want to make more important. Indeed, one of the key themes that has come out from all the political statements post-Brexit has been how actually bilateral trade and economic relations between countries such as India and the UK are absolutely fundamentally important, and probably more important now. So I think we're going to see more investment. And as far as Indian companies are regarded in the UK, they play a fundamentally important role. You employ something in the region of 100,000 people in the UK across a multiplicity of industries, some of which are very high tech. And I think that if one can look forward to a bilateral trade treaty or a bilateral investment treaty, I think that that's going to play a very, very important role in both India's future as well as the UK's future.